What's up, garden friends? We're about to have some fun today. I'm going to go ahead and plant up a bog bowl. Quick, easy, just to get through the rest of the season, because it is actually kind of late in the season to be doing this. And I have here, I believe this is a 14-inch shallow planting bowl. Now I'm going to have to go ahead and build the hole up in there. I want a little bit of water to stay in the bottom since I don't have a dish to put under this that will hold all the water for it. But in the meantime, this is being planted up with peat and sphagnum perlite mix. The sphagnum needs to be hydrated first. So I got my bucket here with my water and peat in it. It is slowly getting thicker and thicker and hydrating. And this disgusting thing back here is a bowl full of dirty rainwater. That's what I was storing these guys in. And the product I'm using to go ahead and build that hole up takes about 25 minutes to cure. Go ahead and get started on that right now while the peat's soaking, because the peat can take a very, very long time to hydrate. I mean, it's pretty much hydrated by now, but just for time's sake, doing this part first. Okay, change of plans. I decided the other dish that I showed you, that other bowl, was far too shallow. It's not going to hold water long enough. They need something deeper than that. So I have this bowl right here that I think is going to work much better, and I kind of wanted to deconstruct this anyways because it's become overgrown and just doesn't look that great. So I'm going to take this apart and use this instead. Now to build this hole up, I'm using an epoxy. It's just a compound. You rub it together and then you build it up. We're going to go ahead and get it all going together. So that's it. You just work it around like this. You can kind of feel it warm up as it's activating. This is safe to cure underwater, and it's not supposed to alter the pH. Hopefully it won't leach a lot of minerals either. It's always safer to go with a plastic pot because you don't really have to worry about minerals leaching out. But this pot's pretty, so it's what I'm going to use. So what I'm doing now is I'm basically going to make a ring that I'm going to put around this hole. Put it down in there, like so. Down into the hole, help give it something to bond to. And I'm going to build the sides up like so. Once I have this built up high enough, I'm looking for it to be about an inch to an inch and a half up there. Even a half an inch will probably be fine. I'm going to take my fingers and press it down. This stuff does dry quick, so I do have to keep working with it to make sure it holds its shape. The nice thing about the Sarracenias is that drainage, they don't need superb drainage, so this doesn't need to be perfect by any means. Now that I have that built up, like I said, it's about an inch and a half up there. I'm going to give this 25 to 30 minutes to cure. It'll be hard, and that's how I will know it's done. So now that the epoxy has hardened, I'm going to go ahead and fill that area in with some hydrostone. Hydrostone's porous. It's going to allow more aeration within everything, and it shouldn't alter the pH of the water. I'm also going to put a layer of hydrostone here on the bottom as well, because I want there to be some air movement in the media just to help prevent rotting. If this were a larger container, I wouldn't really be as concerned about that, or a container that wasn't glazed, then the air would be able to move around a lot better. Now for the dirt. So I have my peat, it's been soaking. I did notice one thing. The peat I bought, the bag said peat sphagnum blend. It didn't say anything about having perlite in it or slow release fertilizer. In the bag, there's perlite in it, which is fine, because I'm going to add perlite to this anyways. But I also had slow release fertilizer, which you don't want for these plants. They don't want nutrient rich dirt. So I have had to soak it and drain it and soak it and drain it and soak it and drain it over and over and over again for a few days, trying to leach out as much of the fertilizer as possible, and hopefully that will be okay. It would be best to just use pure peat, mix it with sphagnum perlite on your own, but I just couldn't find any around at my nurseries. Perlite. Into my mixture, I have gone ahead and added perlite and sphagnum. Alright, so now that that's done, let's get planting. You can see these guys are planted up in pure peat, and that's really what I would have preferred to have done here, but just couldn't find them all. Notice I'm not really roughing the roots up too much. And done. So you might notice I did add something else in here. Actually, I added 2 other things. Back here, there's a dwarf caladium. That's not staying in here. It's not compatible with these plants. My thinking here was that if I wasn't able to leach the nutrients out from that slow release fertilizer, that there'll be a heavy feeder in here to hopefully take it up, because pitcher plants, Sarracenias, are really not efficient feeders from their roots. So the fertilizers will burn them up. It's not good for them, releases minerals and all kinds of things. So that's temporary. It's just kind of an experiment, maybe a couple weeks. I'll take it out of there. One thing I noticed here, I think there's too much perlite. Generally, I would go 50-50 peat and perlite. This mix already had some perlite in it. I used maybe an additional 25% in total. But it really drains a little bit too fast. And considering that I have rinsed and rinsed and soaked and rinsed and rinsed and soaked this peat material, that is of slight concern. Like I said, it's something I'm going to keep an eye on. And that is actually the reason I top dressed with moss to help hold moisture in. A little bit on the care for this. Full sun, minimum 6 hours. And I'm not gonna be watering it with my tap water. I've tested it, it's not gonna work. My pH is about 8.6 and they really prefer acidic water. So I'm going to be using either my pond water. I've tested my pond water, it's fine for this. The TDS is below 100, so that's okay. The pH is around 6.8. So that's also okay. And my rainwater. The problem with rainwater is you gotta stay on top of it, and I need to make sure it's not running off of anything. So I'm gonna collect rainwater and use pond water to keep this watered. And it needs to stay wet. At no point should this dry out. Now let's do the really fun part. Let's talk about what's in here. Oh, I'm sorry. This guy right here is Sarracenia ladybug. It's a low grower. It would typically be a brighter red than this, but since they were shipped to me, I did have them in part sun for a while just to kind of reduce their stress from shipping. I am going to be putting them back in part sun for a day or two and then moving them back to full sun. Here next to the ladybug is Sarracenia bugcat. Bugcat gets taller than the ladybug does, but it's also a very, very, very red variety. I want to say that this is probably a hybrid with the alatas. And then these green guys right here are the Sarracenia flavas, I believe it's called the yellow pitchers. These get fairly big. It's a species. They're hybridized fairly often. I'm not too concerned about the spotting on here because the flavas are early starters. They get going in, I guess late spring. And so the pitcher's a little bit more worn by now. However, down low you can see it's putting up they call them winter leaves, but they're really just leaves that don't pitcher. Well, they don't pitcher the same. Last but definitely not least is my favorite of them all. This is the Sarracenia Ladies in Waiting. The color on the Sarracenia is phenomenal. It's a pretty common hybrid. Gets about 24 inches tall. Alright, there is also a Venus flytrap here in the front. I don't know what variety it is. It's just an assorted one I picked up from, I think it was like Lowe's or Home Depot. And if you were wondering, I got these guys off of eBay from the seller Damon Norman 999. They have lots and lots of pitcher plants, very knowledgeable. They even give a history of the plants and the hybrids, which I think is pretty neat and pretty interesting. So if you're wondering about that, you can go ahead and check that out on his eBay page. Alright, so that's going to do it for today's video. Hope everybody's doing well. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, share the video, all that fun stuff. If you already haven't, let me know your experience with pitcher plants and the Sarracenias. I haven't grown any in a while, but I did previously have a bog garden for several years, so I'm trying it again in a pot. Next year, I'm going to try and build an in-ground bog for these guys. And as always, keep on growing. Bye-bye.